as of this year, I've been now performing for 8 years. And I look at it like this slow build of many, many things. It's the dance experience I've had all these years, learning basically so many different types of dance, using that as my arsenal for storytelling, because that is what I use burlesque for. It's a sexy, empowering form of storytelling for me. And what I found in the course of the unfoldment of my spiritual awakening, which was also the rise of my burlesque career, was that I have to tell stories that have been forgotten on stage. It's it's just a different form of storytelling. It's just a beautiful, empowering reclamation of the feminine body and all the females, especially within Filipino culture, especially with my ancestral bloodline, who have been silenced.
Hello, and welcome back to the Cycle Starters podcast. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and today I am joined by the amazing Claribelle Van Holland, who lives at the intersection of creativity and strategy. Claribelle is the founder of the CV Ledger, a boutique accounting and advisory firm that helps creative entrepreneurs build financial clarity, confidence, and sustainable businesses, drawing on a background in corporate finance. She is also an international burlesque artist performing as mise en garde, proudly mentored by a legendary showgirl, Kitten DeVille, and the producer of a quarterly live band speakeasy show in Idaho that brings world-famous showgirls together on one stage. And through her newest initiative, Naked Finance, Claribelle is on a mission to change how we think and talk about money. In this conversation, we're exploring what it looks like to build a business with both artistry and integrity, how to create real support systems around your work, and the deeper ancestral patterns that we inherit and choose to transform. And if you stay with us until the end, I will be giving Claribelle a mini galactic astrology reading. So no spoilers up front, but let's just say that there are some signatures in her natal chart that speak to purpose, resilience, and the kind of leadership that changes the room. Hi, Claribelle. Hi, sis. How
Hey,
are you?
sis. I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad considering everything at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I know. And I'm so grateful to have this time together for us to connect, to have what I know is going to be a really inspiring conversation and I think a healing conversation. So thank you so much for saying yes to being on the show.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I am honored and so over the moon to be here.
Yay. All right. Well, so let's dive into it. What can you share with us about your blood ancestors? And so we have some ancestry in common, but yeah, tell us
Yeah.
where your ancestors are
No,
from.
so I have my maternal side is from Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur. Um, and so basically all of the Ilocano area. And then my father is a little bit further down south, and his family is a little bit more spread out. Ultimately, though, he ended up with his immediate family growing up in Manila. So my father's family is of the Waray Waray, which I kind of love. So they're primarily Bisayan, which I'm a little less familiar with than I am with the Ilocano side. But yeah, ultimately they just ended up in Manila because my grandfather took a corporate job with the big gas companies way back when. So yeah.
Nice. Well, so for those who don't know, my maternal ancestors are also from the archipelago now known as the Philippines. And my mom is from Tacloban, which is
Mm,
a town in Leyte, which is part of the Visayas, and her native tongue, her dialect is Waray. So
yeah.
we probably have ancestors in common, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that aloud because for some people, this may be the first time they're watching this podcast
Yeah.
and they may not know of all these cool places in the Philippines. And I didn't even know this because I was just there, for 3 weeks. I just got back like 2 weeks ago. There are over 7,000 islands in the
Yeah.
Philippines. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that does not surprise me. That's really wild. And also, now that you mention it, I'm fairly certain my dad's family is from around the Leyte area. I just kind of spaced earlier, but yeah, I'm
I
fairly
love
certain
it.
that's the case. So,
I mean, I think learning all the details of our ancestral stories, it's a process. It's hard to remember all of it. I have so many notes and I'm still gathering information. I
yeah,
forget things. I learn new things all the time. So
yeah.
it's
No,
just we're
same.
doing it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I would love to hear a little bit about your ancestral healing journey. But before you start telling us about that, and maybe this will all weave together, I want to know, when did this concept of ancestral healing even enter your consciousness? Like, when did you realize that things could be passed down from generation to generation, but then also, when did you get empowered around your ability to actually start new cycles, right? To change and shift these patterns that we've inherited.
Yeah, I think that the very beginnings of it started as early as maybe 2017, unbeknownst to me, but there were signs when I look back at it in retrospect. And then there were stronger signs come 2019, end of 2019. And then there wasn't a really full acknowledgement of the process unfolding until literally COVID, when we were all
Mhm.
stuck at home 20. And that just, I mean, it was intense. It was very fast for me. And it was quite early on within pandemic times. From that point on, it sort of just presented itself, and I didn't have any other choice but to just kind of follow the signs.
Well, so if you don't mind sharing, because I really think it helps other people who are starting their own ancestral healing journey and are potentially intimidated by doing this work, because this work is not for the faint of heart. There are so many ups and downs with this. But what would you say, if you had to put a fine point on it? What are the patterns that you're breaking in this lifetime?
I'm gonna go back a little bit because this definitely touches this concept that within Filipino culture is so predominant, is that concept of utang ng loob, debt of the heart. And I see the value in it, and I see why it was helpful at different times for many people. What I'm seeing now is that that concept has really gone a bit too far. And I can say that as a Filipino American, in the observation of my family members who have taken that concept and ultimately sacrificed themselves in some way, shape, or form. So, regardless of where it started, because I really don't quite know that far back what it has evolved to. And I don't think that this is just within my family and my ancestral bloodline. I think that this is pretty widespread, even to this day, very much so. But is this concept of forgoing yourself entirely to help your family. And I think back to that analogy of like the airplane, when they're giving you the safety measures at the very beginning of your flight. Take your air mask for yourself first so that you can help others. And that's been forgotten, within this concept of utang na loob. And it is to the detriment of people within my family and so many other Filipino families where they don't even really know who they are. They've silenced or forgotten or forgoed all of that, to the point of maybe even selling, their bodies, their souls, whatever. And it's heartbreaking. And there's greatly diminished sense of empowerment, self-empowerment, of really following your dreams. And I think that's changing pretty widely at this point with generations at our age, and more so even with younger generations, absolutely. But to kind of be part of this wave of, and I'm kind of just not talking about within my ancestral bloodline, but for all of us, like, because it's a generational thing, to begin to empower ourselves by following what it is that is true to us, true to our hearts, true to who we are at the very core of it, whatever that is, and not abandoning it like prior generations, I think is healing in and of itself. And so, especially for the work that I do, and doing everything. And this has been my entire life. I've been very adamant about I'm not going to do anything that I don't want to do. I'm not going to do anything because I'm supposed to, or I'm told that that's just what you do. I've always resisted that naturally. And so I feel like there was some sort of agreement that my soul had long ago to be like, all right, it was in the hands of my mother, but these are the events that transpired. So now it moves on to not just myself, but my sister, and then maybe everyone within our generational time to sort of begin to break those cycles and empowering ourselves by making our own choices out of our own volition and not again because we have to or we're supposed to, which is what it has historically been.
Thank you. There was so much medicine in what you just shared, and I can so relate. I do think that this is part of our collective healing that we're doing, right? It's not just your family, it's not just my family, it's in Filipino culture. And I would say other cultures have variations of this. I love how psychic and intuitive I am, and all of my Filipino friends are. I think there's a reason why there's so many Filipino doctors and nurses and caretakers because we're so close to the veil. We know what people need before they do. We're really, really good at this. And we're very relational as a culture, as a people. And there's opportunity and a gift with that. And there's also a wound around that. And I think you're really speaking to that, where this connection we all feel with one another, especially our blood relatives, especially parents, it can be so beautiful, but it can also, if it's taken too far, become a cage for us, right? And we experience this self erasure in that process, right? So, yeah, thank you for speaking to that. I mean, how's it been for you unpacking all of this and untangling these knots is like a way I would, put it. Like how has this process been for you?
It has been highly uncomfortable, but I will say that the peace that is attained through the unknotting of every single knot, I guess, is absolutely worth it because I can feel the transmutation of ancestral, like healing when I do go through it. Right.
Mhm.
And these days, it's almost more and more immediate. It's kind of wild. Before it was kind of like, oh, okay, this is a gradual shift and a gradual shift. And we're seeing things move, things change, things evolve. But these days, and maybe it's just with respect to some of the things that I've been personally tackling within myself, but I have seen quite dramatic change once I kind of find peace within my heart, acceptance, acknowledge of whatever, right? And then everything starts to flow in this in this way that is really crazy. There's something to be said about holding on and or releasing these things that actually no longer serve us. But I think to name it, to be able to acknowledge what the thing is really important to know exactly what it is that you're releasing. And I'm the kind of person where it takes me a little time to just sort of even identify why I feel uncomfortable to begin with, so I'm sort of like in this space where I'm like, all right, this isn't great. I don't love this for myself in this moment. And it's really allowing myself to sit with that long enough to identify the thing and then go, okay, I see what this is. I see where this is all coming from. And I don't really need this anymore. And in that very simple acknowledgement of that, the acceptance and then the acknowledgement of it allows for just like this very magnanimous like release of the thing. And it's rapid because I have within recent times in my acknowledgement of just certain ancestral patterns and just things of that sort have shifted sleepless nights into all of a sudden being able to sleep right away. Everything manifests physically, right? So when we see and accept whatever change or whatever, that will ultimately manifest physically. And so, yeah, it's been really wild to kind of experience that at such a rapid rate, especially as of late.
Thank you so much for sharing that. These are tender conversations, and I think it takes a lot of courage to go there and name the thing. Like you said, you have to name it. That's the first step, right? It's like, okay, what are we dealing with? Let's situate ourselves. Because if we can't call a thing, we're just taking any road because we don't even know
Yeah.
what our destination is, right? If we don't know our starting point. So I think that's a really very important point that you made. I want to talk about your burlesque work because I love how you, on the one hand, are this finance teacher, finance guide and mentor, right, with this corporate finance background, and you're an entrepreneur and you're doing your own thing with that. It's so amazing. And then you've got your artistry, the burlesque dancing on the other side. And so, can you tell me a little bit about your journey kind of navigating all of this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say that physical embodiment through dance was a contractual agreement that I made before I incarnated because it is something I know so well, the rhythm and the movement. I can barely sit still sometimes. You know what I mean? I hear music and almost immediately, especially with certain frequencies of sound, um, I can see it through movement, just there. So dance has always been in my bones. And it's something that I always wanted to do, but never went into so professionally until I started performing burlesque, really. It just wasn't the path I wanted to. And then there was always this part of me that was like, no, you're not supposed to dance. It's not that I was told that, but it was something that my mom kind of dissuaded early on becoming a professional dancer, choreographer. She always supported me in terms of my dancing because she knew how much I loved it. But I think that coming from, you know, an immigrant being like, no, no, I want you to succeed. And this whole dance situation is like, I don't know. Like, so in her telling me that, I talked myself out of that. But it was always this struggle within myself because it was always something I wanted so much. And so fast forward into adulthood, dancing was something I always kept within an arm's reach, whether it was constantly taking classes or dancing in some capacity, even though that wasn't my main thing. And then I found burlesque. I had actually known about it for quite a while, since like my early 20s. So it's been a long time, but that took a long time for me to fully wrap my head around because there was always this perception I had held about burlesque being this, 1950s pinup kind of vibe where it was like, oh, you've got to have a certain kind of body type. And I am literally a small, petite person. So I'm not curvy, there's all this stuff. Burlesque has never been about that. And that's something that I learned over, the more I got to kind of understand it. And on the cusp of me quitting my corporate job and starting my accounting firm, and this was in 2018. This was when kind of like major change really started to happen. And so I ultimately had started my firm and was like, all right, I'm ready to jump off the proverbial cliff of, corporate safety. But I also knew that I needed something to balance myself because I was like, there's no way I'm going to allow myself to burn out on this job, this company that I've created, because I know myself too well to know that that's very plausible if I don't come up with something else. And on top of the fact that I've always been the kind of person who likes to do multiple things just for balance and whatnot. So burlesque had been kind of in the periphery, and it was interesting because when you make a decision to do something and the universe has been wanting you to do that very thing, it is insane how it just basically rolled out the red carpet when I made that decision. Go, okay, I'm going to do burlesque. And that was literally all I needed to say, because I remember distinctly going to a new gentleman when I was still living in Southern California to get my hair cut in Pasadena. This is so random. But in the course of that conversation, I happened to mention burlesque. I don't know why. It was just like random because I think it was a recent decision. And within that time frame, actually, like during that haircut, he was like, you should reach out to my friend Kitten. She's in Riverside if you don't mind a drive, but then proceeded to give me the entire playbook on burlesque, which I didn't ask for. I was just like, oh, that's really crazy. And then the next thing I know, I'm driving out to Riverside every week for like 6, 7, 8 weeks. I debut on stage as a burlesque performer, student showcase in I think it was 2018 of February, Valentine's Day. And this all started happening in 2017. So it was a fast trajectory. It just so happened to be that Kitten DeVille was one of the current living legends of burlesque. She's 60 now, but she had won many, many awards and was sort of like one of the primary figures in resurging burlesque in the United States in the 90s. I didn't know that. And people were like, you realize that it's not normal to have someone like that as your burlesque mother. And I was like, okay, just like, okay, that's cool. And then within 3 months of my debut, I was asked to perform in New York. And then it was just a snowball. And that's not normal for all burlesque performers. The universe, anytime I question it, the universe always confirms that this is something that I only not need to do, but that I have to do as part of my gifts. Because anytime I question, it's very strange. So I'll be like, oh, I don't know, maybe I should take a break, or maybe I should just stop doing burlesque. And then the next day, a producer halfway across the world will be like, so when are you coming back to perform? And I'm like, okay, universe, I hear you. You don't want me to quit this anytime soon. You want to make sure that I've got skin in the game for a while. But yeah, as of this year, I've been now performing for 8 years. I look at it like this slow build of many, many things, right? It's the dance experience I've had all these years, learning basically so many different types of dance, using that as my arsenal for storytelling, because that is what I use burlesque for. It's a sexy, empowering form of storytelling for me. And what I found in the course of the unfoldment of my spiritual awakening, which was also the rise of my burlesque career, I guess, was that I have to tell stories that have been forgotten on stage. Some of them are my stories. It's just a different form of storytelling. It's just a beautiful, empowering reclamation of the feminine body and all the females, especially within Filipino culture, especially with my ancestral bloodline, who have been silenced. This is me for all of them, taking it back and being like, I'm going to show my body, not because I need to be seen, but because this is like to everyone else that didn't have a choice about it, I have a choice. And I'm going to make it good for all of us, where it's all of us up here making that choice.
Woo! Girl. Oh my God, I am dying to watch you perform. You're going to have to send me a video or something. I
Yeah.
really want to have this experience, to experience your medicine. And then I'd love to see you live. So I don't know if you come down if you perform in the LA area ever.
Well, I do. I'm going actually to Southern California next week, but I won't be in LA. I'll be in Palm Springs.
I love Palm Springs. I love it.
So I'll be there on Friday the 13th, actually, performing to a live band, actually.
So cool. Oh my God, thank you for sharing that story. And immediately what comes to mind, in terms of the ancestral healing aspect of all of this, how did your folks respond to you getting into burlesque and performing burlesque? Because as you said, there's a collective wound, not just in Filipino culture, but I think globally around female sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, tell me, how did they react?
So for my mother, she always knew how much I love to dance. She's known that since forever. And so for her, she was really supportive. I was surprised. I was thinking I was going to get oh no, you're going to do this. When I think back to when I first shared that news with her, I think she understood and trusts me enough to do it in a way that isn't, salacious, but also she just knows how deeply I love it. She also was a dancer. She stopped herself from dancing. So in a way, I think it was always one of those things where it's like, okay, well, you got it from me, then you should do that. Exactly. And so that was really cool because it was such a non thing. She was like, "Oh, that's great." It was a very non event, really, when I told her. I was like, "Okay, cool." Honestly, kind of same thing with my dad, which I was a little bit more apprehensive about. Um, he he was just like, "Okay." It was really weird. I was like, "Okay." And then he proceeded to tell me a funny story about how he had gone to a strip club when he was a kid by accident. And I'm just like, "Okay, dad, cool.
Yeah.
Okay." And then that was it. And then it was just like such a non thing with my parents, which I'm really, really grateful for. Where it did become kind of a weird thing was with all the other, other relatives that felt like they needed to judge it. Right. And I was like, you know what though? You're not who raised me. You're not really who supported me. So I kind of don't really care what you think. And I'm going
Good
to
for
do this
you.
anyway. So, and if you want to try to follow me on social media, I can also just block you from seeing my stuff because we just don't need to kind of create this static about unnecessarily, you know what I mean? So, but it really wasn't even that big of a deal when that happened, I mean, it was kind of just more so in the beginning. And then I was like, well, I don't see or talk to you guys often enough to really even care. Oh, well. And then, that was kind of it. So, and then I never really heard anything about it since then.
All right. I'm glad that that wasn't that big of a deal because it could have been, and it sounds like they were very accepting of you and your choices and they trusted you, which is beautiful and good for you for realizing that these relatives that weren't in contact with you anyway, they could have their opinions and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good for you. Well, sis, are you ready to talk some astrology?
Yeah, absolutely. I always
Okay.
want to talk astrology.
Yay. Well, so for those of you who are new to this show and new to my work, I am an intuitive galactic astrologer and quantum soul guidance practitioner. So the way I relate to astrology is that it is not the rule, but it is a very empowering tool, right? It's an empowering language and framework for understanding yourself as an energetic being on an ancestral healing journey. So I'm always looking through this ancestral healing lens with it. And so I have a monthly membership called the Cosmic Awakening Circle, and it's a sacred space that I've created for female bodied cycle breakers and cycle starters to engage with astrology and pleasure as medicine for your ancestral healing journey. So we're alchemizing deep ancestral wounds into creative potential, shifts to higher consciousness, and embodied joy in this space. And most recently, I've expanded my practice into galactic astrology because I just felt this very strong call to expand my notion of ancestors, right? Going beyond our blood ancestry and looking at our soul's journey over eons of time and exploring our relationship with our star ancestors. So it's not for everyone, but it is for me. And I'm just endlessly fascinated with astrology, and I'm so excited to share with you what I found looking at your galactic placements. I do want to chat though about your big three first, because that really, I think, like, that's your primary, like, energetic signature, your sun,
Yeah.
your moon, and your rising sign. So you're a Capricorn sun, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then just your Sagittarius rising,
Yeah.
and then you're a Cancer moon. So I mean, we have to talk about the Cancer moon because Cancer is cardinal water. It's that initial thrust of water. Water represents our emotions, our emotional imprint. It's our ancestral wounds, but also the gifts our ancestors have given us. The reason I am like so drawn to talking about the moon is because with you being a Cancer moon, I know, first of all the water signs are so psychic and intuitive. Having, Cancer, that having your natal moon be in the sign of Cancer, I know you are super psychic super intuitive. And I also saw that you have planets in the 12th house too. So, like, that's just like even more confirmation that you're very close to the veil and you can sense lots of things that are beyond the veil, right? Beyond the 3D. Yeah, just Cancer is so nurturing. It's so loving. It's that mother energy. And then I think your moon is in your 7th house of partnership. Relationships are really important for your emotional well-being. Also, your moon sign tells us what we are responsible for giving to ourselves in order to feel balanced and at home in our own energy. And so my mom is a Cancer sun, so I'm a little familiar with this. And also my husband is a Cancer moon. So
Oh,
you guys are very loving, you're very psychic, you're very intuitive. And I feel like healed Cancer is very nurturing, very caring, um, and then very, very family oriented. My mom loves family heirlooms and hosting everybody together. And then the unhealed shadow side of Cancer is like you can get offended about something or somebody crosses you, you're upset about something and you cannot move on. You cannot let go. It's like that Cancer claw just clamps down and you will not let go of something. And also, what I found is that sometimes your love for somebody is so profound and so deep that you start to like, put blinders on and you're not seeing the whole picture. I'm devoted to this person. You start to excuse stuff or pretend you don't see stuff. The other thing I've noticed is that when you think about a crab, right, move in cycles and they will scurry around kind of sideways. They're not moving in a straight line. They kind of move with the tides. But also when they molt, when they shed their shell, they have to go and hide between the rocks because their new shell is still very soft, very malleable. They're very vulnerable. And then only when that shell is hard enough will they emerge out into the open. So I think for people with a strong Cancer presence in their chart, you have to understand your own cycles because
yeah,
otherwise you're ruled by them. And also unhealed
yeah.
Cancer can be moody and not know why, right? Because they're not self-aware. So I've said a lot. Did any of this resonate? What has your life been with
Yeah.
this Cancer moon for you?
Honestly, the Cancer moon in my chart has been a placement that I am just now getting comfortable with and
Yeah,
starting to
it's
really
intense.
understand. Yeah. I mean, it explains so much. I am very attuned to the cycles of the moon.
Yes.
And when I realized that, I was like, some days I just feel really fiery. And then other days I don't want to talk to anybody. And it might be related to like my lady cycle, but I think that just like with the intensity of the moon and just being a Cancer moon, I'm like, oh, that's what that is. And so it's been helpful kind of accepting that and beginning to kind of plan my life around those cycles. That's been really helpful for me.
Amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
you have to do that. You have to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be on this roller coaster and not know why. So I love that. Yeah, you are very connected to the cycles of the moon. You have to plan around that. And also, I'm learning that people with a strong Cancer presence in their chart, they need time alone because you're feeling everything
Yeah.
and the emotions of everyone around you. You're feeling all the vibes. And so you need alone time to come back into your own energy and also process all of these imprints, right? All of the stuff that you've absorbed. Um, so and your moon is important with your galactic chart. So actually I want to jump into it right now because
Yeah.
this is really exciting. So if there's one message underneath everything, I think it's that you are not too much. You are precisely calibrated. And I feel like your chart carries the signature of somebody who can hold the room, hold the line and still keep the door open for wonder. And so your sun is in the sign of Capricorn. It's in the first house, and it is conjunct the star Sulafat in the Lyra constellation and also the Lyra ring nebula. And I think you're the first person that I've come across who has their sun conjunct any stars in Lyra. So the sun describes how you are meant to stand in your own life. So it's where you shine from a 3D perspective. So it's like really how you see yourself. It's a special sauce that you mix into everything that you do that makes you stand out from the 11 other signs. And Capricorn in the highest expression is like the workhorse, the worker bee, but who is also working for or in service of a cause that's greater than themselves. They're not working for money or status. But Capricorn can get shit done better than anybody else. You're like the taskmaster. You can strategize, you can plan, you can execute. And so I feel like you're built for mastery, but it's not performative mastery, it's earned mastery. You're a person who can take something intangible and make it real. You can take a vision and you can give it structure. You can take a mission and you give it legs. And with this Lyran imprint infused into your sun, it just comes out of you very naturally. Um, there's this imprint of leadership forged in the fire of transformation because our most distant ancient ancestors are from the Lyra constellation. They started the whole human experiment. We're all related to Lyrans in one way or another. There were serious wars in the Lyra constellation that forced people to evacuate. Many, 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 many people died. Homelands were destroyed. And so you have that imprint on your soul, right? That frequency is there. So it's like there's this frequency of I have been through something very deep, very transformative, but I did not disappear. And if there is an old ache that you have carried, or this low grade grief that you could not fully name, or a feeling that you've had to be strong for a long time, this is not a flaw in you. This is the memory of resilience. It's a record of survival. And it is also a call, I think, to not keep bracing, but to keep becoming. And so I think with your sun in Capricorn conjunct the Lyra Nebula and the star Sulafat, it's asking you to choose the kind of leader that you want to be, build the containers that keep you safe, and let your life be a testimony that strength can also be soft. And so I also have some Lyran connections in my own chart. So the mantras that I've started to tell myself too, because I've also had this journey around belonging and cultivating a sense of inner safety, right? Being at home wherever I'm at. There's something about like, I reclaim my divine birthright to feel safe. I reclaim my divine birthright to feel at peace. I reclaim my divine birthright to feel connected to my loved ones. And then, in true Capricorn fashion, you can take it from the spiritual into the practical. So it's like one choice you make, one boundary you set, one aligned action that you take again and again, because that's Capricorn, right? Just like step by
Yeah.
step, I'm executing the plan. So that's what I saw around your sun. So this Lyran frequency is just, it's in you, and it's so infused in how you shine in the world. So this moon in the sign of Cancer in the 7th house is conjunct the Sirius constellation. So Sirius is very much connected to ancient Egypt, by the way. I mean, like, I think multiple cultures all over the world have connections to Sirius, but I would say ancient Egypt is the most well known. And so your moon is your emotional compass, like I said. And so you are exquisitely attuned, right? You're feeling everything. You feel what is real. You sense what is unspoken. and you can read the temperature of a room with your heart. And with this moon in the seventh house, your emotional intelligence is very relational. And it comes alive in partnership, in collaboration, and client work and community. And you are not here to do everything alone. You're here to create reciprocity. And Sirius, which is our spiritual sun, it adds this particular kind of brightness, an instinct for uplift, this devotion to truth, this blend of spirituality and precision, because Sirius does have this association with spirituality and science combined. And so your intuition, it's not woo woo, it's actually a data stream. You're receiving information in nonlinear ways, like all the time. And so when you get a hit, when you have a dream or just like a sudden knowing or even a wave of emotion that feels like guidance, you are meant to absolutely 100% trust it. And you are allowed to take yourself seriously. You are allowed to honor your own inner timing. And I think this placement just reminds you that your sensitivity is not a flaw, it's a skill. Your care is power, and your boundaries are an act of love. They're not a wall. So that was really interesting to me. And then there was one other thing that jumped out at me. And this is your midheaven placement. So the midheaven or the MC, it's the very top of your chart and it represents like your contributions to the world, what you're known for, what you do in public, and very much associated with career and your calling. So your midheaven is in the sign of Libra, which is cardinal air, and air is our thoughts, our consciousness, our beliefs. And Libra, in the highest expression, is all about creating beauty and harmony. And this word that you've said over and over again in our conversation, balance, very much concerned with justice. And then the low expression of Libra is like codependence, right? And like putting your needs, wants, desires on the back burner, suppressing them because you don't want to rock the boat, right? You don't want to upset other people. So your midheaven in the sign of Libra is conjunct the star Corvus Algorab, and this is your public path. This is how the world meets you. This is what you're here to be known for. Your work carries balance and beauty and fairness and refinement. And you have a gift for translating complexity into clarity and creating harmony without denying reality, is what I would say. And I think the Corvus Algorab influence gives what you're doing in public a very, very specific medicine. And that is the courage to name what is malevolent, what is manipulative, what is draining, and to cast it out of your field, but not with fear. You're doing it with discernment. This is the placement, I feel, of someone who can look at hard truths and still stay centered. Someone who can turn very icky dynamics into very clean boundaries. And somebody who can guide other people through shadow and return with wisdom. And so, what you're doing in public, whether it's your job or your calling, it doesn't require you to be agreeable, which is the lower expression of Libra. It requires you to be clear. And I like to associate the archetype of the Queen of Swords with Libra. This is the truth teller.
Yeah.
Her words can cut somebody, but the sword's not out all the time. You can see it.
Yeah.
She's very discerning and calculated and wise when it comes to when she speaks and when she doesn't speak. And so I feel like these three galactic placements, they don't make you distant from Earth. I think they make you more capable of being here. You're here to build what lasts, which is very Capricorn. You're here to love with intelligence, which is that Libra. And you're here to lead with integrity. And I feel like that's all those placements together. And when doubt appears for you, you can return to this idea. So, your chart is not asking you to prove your worth, it is asking you to remember your design, and your design is very, very powerful. So, I know that was a lot, but that's just what I saw.
Yeah.
That's what really jumped out at me initially. How is this landing for you?
Oh, it makes sense. All of it. Some of it, I was I was already somewhat aware of some of the things, and then there are other things where it was a more in depth understanding or explanation of how I kind of knew on a more surface level, I suppose. So that's yeah. I mean, it feels resonant. It feels accurate, actually, like super accurate. I'm like, yeah, that is me. Everything that
Yay!
I do, like it makes sense.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy to hear that it resonated for you. And this is just skimming the surface. Like, I had to just pick like a few things with the
Sure,
limited time that we
of
have. So
course.
I hope that we can do a full deep dive and do a divine blueprint activation for you. If you're watching and you would love a galactic reading, I will put the link to my readings page in the show notes. I have a short Aquarian initiation, which is a 30-minute sort of intro reading to look at what's happening in your chart, in your life with this, wave of Aquarian energy that's been coming in as we move from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And then if you want a full 2-hour galactic reading, that's the Divine Blueprint activation. So, oh, so cool. It's really an honor to look at anyone's chart, and it's vulnerable. It's intimate, to have somebody look at your chart. So thank you for trusting me.
My gosh, thank you. This is awesome. And yeah, I will be absolutely talking to you very soon about a divine blueprint because I am so curious from that perspective what things look like on a more kind of deep dive perspective.
Yay. It's going to be so fun. Well, so before we wrap, this has been such a great conversation. I wanted to give you an opportunity to share anything that you're working on right now that you're excited about. Like, where can people go if they want to learn more about you? Like, yeah, tell us.
So I'm always gonna like split this to like the like left brain, right brain kind of situation as I do, as my Libra midheaven points me to do. But in terms of work stuff, I am still developing a my naked finance digital course. And so while I do like these 5-week coaching sessions for folks, I want to be more attainable to folks who don't have as big of a budget because it's important to me that everyone can start to heal the wounds of their kind of money stories, I guess. And so that will be launching later this year, which I'm really excited about. And it's been put off for a number of reasons, but this is the year, Fire Horse year. That energy is perfect for it. So I'm really excited about that because that will be a completely new avenue of business. And I think that just being able to be the person on the other end of the line and being able to hear people and see them and hold space for them in this way that has to do with money, I think is really, really big, especially for those who are just really new at starting their own business or just kind of taking matters into their own hands, whatever that looks like, because I think that we are on the precipice of huge change and people really starting to work for themselves. I feel this. And so I just want to be able to help those who feel aligned. So that's naked finance. But in the meantime, if people want to find me professionally, like accounting related, everything for small business, cvledger.com is the best place. Shoot me a note. I'm very good about getting back over email. And then in terms of my sort of just performance life as mise on, Instagram is probably the best place for that because I do post all of my sort of upcoming show dates. I kind of just bump all over the country, sometimes all over the world if I'm feeling saucy and wanting to travel to further places. But yeah, so that's mise en garde, MIZONGARDE on Instagram, all one word. And then I also have my personal profile, which is just sort of like normal me that's neither business stuff or accounting stuff, where I'm just living my country life out here. Yeah. And those are the
Nice.
best ways.
Perfect. Okay. Well, so I have one last question to ask you, and I ask this of all of my podcast guests. So, what are the new cycles that you're starting in your lineages?
Yeah. I would say that the one that comes most immediate to mind is this sense of stepping into, and this is sort of more, it's not like literal, but I guess it kind of is, but stepping into a sort of more maternal role through the lens and perspective of empowerment and not out of obligation. That's very new to me. And it's something that I'm just in the process of learning and understanding about myself. I think that historically, again, and just going back to like earlier points, there was this sense of mothering, right, and maternal, just duty, but it wasn't necessarily always, especially within the last 3 to 4 generations. Could go further back than that, but I could say safely 3 to 4 generations where the maternal role was assumed out of obligation. And so I'm redefining that cycle as a person who does not have biological human children out of my own body, but finding ways in which to embody that in other areas of my life through my family. It's just completely, it's different. It feels, there's a different energy to that I've never really understood or saw myself capable of until now. So it's exciting to be able to do that and really, I don't know, just be there and step in to see what this kind of plays out to be.
Thank you for that. That's beautiful. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you again
Likewise.
for saying yes to being on the show and being in sacred dialogue with me. I'm so happy and proud to know you. So thanks.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Thank
Yay.
you.
Oh my God. My pleasure. Pleasure. Well, everyone, thanks for being here. And we will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Bye, everybody.